Hello, everybody. I'm Robert Franz, music director of the Windsor Symphony Orchestra, and I am delighted to be here today with my good friend and fantastic composer, Vince Ho. Vince, welcome back to the Capitol Theater.
Oh, thank you. It's wonderful to virtually be there.
So I hear that the last time you were here in person was 2012 when you helped open our season
Yes.
back then. So we're
Yes.
we're delighted. In fact, your piece that we're going to perform on this concert, Earthbeat, was actually meant to take place in 2020, actually, just at the tip of the iceberg of the pandemic. And so we've put it off, but we're delighted to be able to perform it now in January of 2024.
Well, I'm very excited, and yes, I've been looking forward to about this performance for 3 years since then. So yeah, I'm happy to hear that it's back on the program.
So before we delve into the piece, which I want to do, I want to find out a little bit more about you as a composer and as a person. Tell me a little bit about how the composition bug bit you. How did you start to compose? How did you think about, or why did you think about becoming a composer?
Okay, well, I'll try and give you the short answer. Okay, it started when I was 14. Actually, let me go back a little bit further. When I was young, I used to love playing Lego. Lego was my passion. It's just the process of taking a brick, putting it together with another, and eventually I fall into this process where it'll lead me into creating something that I did not had in mind. And it's that process that I was very much had a passion for, the creative process. And so during this time, I was also studying the piano. Now, over the years, they went hand in hand. I love to play the piano, and I love to play Lego. Then one day, when I was 14, I rented this movie called Amadeus. Now, for those who haven't seen the movie, it's an Academy Award-winning film from 1984, a fictionalized story about the rivalry between the composer Mozart and Salieri. After I saw that movie, it just dawned on me about the whole art of writing music, and it fit with my personality. The constructive element, as I mentioned, the constructive element of playing with Lego, and also the musical side of me just seemed to go hand in hand with the process of writing music. And so as soon as the movie finished, I ran off to the piano, wrote my first piano piece, and that was it. That was when I realized, you know what, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. It just seemed to bring the best of both worlds of who I am together in one. So.
I love how you combine those processes. I mean, they really are pretty darn similar. Take us to the place where you thought, wow, I could actually make a living at this. This could be my job. I mean, was that at 14 as well, or is that later on? Or?
No, actually, that was much later on. I mean, I continued composing throughout high school, and then I decided to, on a whim, audition for to the University of Calgary's music department. I was offered a scholarship, and so I decided to go down that route. Originally, I had plans on doing, possibly I had other ideas of what I want to do, let it be economics, business, or engineering. But then when I was offered that scholarship, that pretty much made my decision for me when I was doing my undergrad. And so during that period, I did my undergrad at University of Calgary. Over the course of my student years, there were these little hints, these encouraging hints that told me that this is the pathway that I should stick with as a profession. I was offered a scholarship to go study in Paris at the La Scuola Cantorum, then another scholarship to study in Italy, and then I was offered scholarships to do my master's in University of Toronto, and then my doctorate at University of Southern California. And so during my educational years, I guess you could say that the decisions were made for me as to the pathway that I took into becoming a composer. Now, when I had graduated with my doctorate, that was the question I asked myself that you had asked. How do I make a living? Well, again, there were these little, I guess, hints, or I shouldn't say hints, but amazing opportunities that started to present itself as soon as I graduated. I was appointed the composer in residence to the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra. I mean, almost immediately after I graduated, and so I thought, all right, wow, this is great. And so during the 7 years I was there, I had the opportunity to write a substantial amount of music for the orchestra, along with many acclaimed artists such as, Shauna Rolston, cellist, and Evelyn Glennie. I wrote 2 concertos for her, among many others. And so during that period, I was still thinking in the back of my mind, okay, well, this is during this residency. How am I going to make a living after this residency is over? Well, yeah, as soon as I finished my residency, there was a sense of momentum happening in my career, and that momentum was perpetuated by the collaborative relationships I have built with many artists around the world. And so I shouldn't say quickly, I gradually realized that my career was becoming more and more self-sustaining because of these collaborative relationships. A great example that brought full awareness of how important this was to my career was when COVID hit. Now, when COVID hit like 3 years ago, as you know, concerts were canceled, everything was shut down, and I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with my career? Do I have to change professions? How am I going to make a living? To my wonderful surprise, within weeks, I started to get these requests from many of these collaborative artists that I've had professional relations with over the years from all over the world, asking for me to write works for them because they were now going online with their concerts. They needed to maintain their connection with their audiences, and so that meant they needed more content or new content. And so, believe it or not, because of my network of colleagues, I became more and more busier to the point where became an avalanche of projects during COVID. So I was one of the few people that actually benefited during the COVID pandemic. And so that was when it dawned on me that in order to maintain my profession, in order to maintain sustain a living in composing, I had to maintain my professional relations with many of the artists who I've developed a strong simpatico with, so we can continue to grow together with each new project. And so that's how I was able to maintain a full-time career as a composer. And that actually was the most remarkable, I guess, what's the word? Moment of clarity, I guess you could say, is that, you know what? To become an artist in any creative field, one can't just rely on oneself, on doing it on their own. It's a community. Once you have that community, then we all help each other, and that was how I was able to continue doing what I do.
I love everything about that, and I often tell people that really I'm in the people business and we do music on the side, and I really think that is incredibly important. I know that like a number of your sort of connections and relationships, professional relationships you've had over the year have sustained you, and I think that's really extraordinary. One of them that I think has been super inspirational is the one that you've had with Evelyn Glennie, the great percussionist, and all of the pieces that you've written for her.
Yeah.
It sort of hit me quite strongly, I have to say, when I was looking up some of your other works other than Earthbeat and the one that you and I are doing together in November,
Yes.
World premiere of a saxophone concerto, which I'm super excited about. But I want you to tell me, it's a little bit off the path, but I want you to tell me a little bit about it. This piece, From Darkness to Light, A Spiritual Journey. As you probably know, I just came through that journey myself with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. And so when I saw that you had written a piece about someone's journey through cancer and through chemo and coming to the other end, and for Evelyn, I was really curious to know a little bit more about what the inspiration was behind that piece.
When that project came up, I had already written a concerto for Evelyn Glennie called The Shaman, and that was the project that started our long-term professional relations. Working on The Shaman allowed us to realize how well we work together and that we really inspire the best out of each other. And so a year or two after that, we were looking for a project to work on together again. A close friend of mine from Los Angeles, his name's Luke Liestemacher, was diagnosed with cancer, and he went through that journey that one goes through when living with cancer, from the diagnosis, going through the treatment, and eventually coming to terms with whatever comes at the end of the treatment. And he felt that it was an extraordinary journey that one cannot express into words. And he reached out to me and asked, this was an extraordinary journey. It was obviously a life-changing journey. It was traumatic, it was scary, but at the same time, it was, well, in many ways, eye-opening that changed how he saw the world in for better or for worse. And the way he talked about it, the way he was trying to get me to understand, he opened my eyes to this kind of extraordinary journey he went through. And so this was something that I brought up with Evelyn, and she thought that this might be something worth exploring in expressing in musical form. And so what I did was I went through a long process of interviewing a number of people who was living with cancer, getting their stories, understanding what their journeys were. And it gave me an understanding of how it really made them aware of the beauty of life, what life means to them, and also coming to terms with a lot of things that they had not yet come to terms with until this happened. And so the journey from first realizing there's a problem, physical problem, to getting the diagnosis, going through the fear and the trauma, and then going through the treatments of chemotherapy, and then coming out of it in the end was something that I wanted to try to express in musical form because Luke was a very close friend of mine, and he felt it was very important to try and capture it in some artistic form, in some artistic journey, a narrative, I guess one could say. Um, Thanks to Evelyn Glennie, we put our trust in each other's hands and tried to create that journey in musical form. It's a piece that's meant to be very spiritual, meant to be a spiritual journey of discovery when and coming to those, I guess, personal breakthroughs that one has when you're faced with such life and death situations. You really don't know who you are until you face those situations and you confront it, and then and whatever happens after will determine who you are at that point. And that, for me, was the thesis of that work. And so that piece from Darkness to Light isn't so much a concerto. I would say it's more of a tone poem or a spiritual reflection in musical form, scored for percussion and orchestra. So,
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that. And secondly, I would say that part of what attracts me to your music so much is that there is a real sense of the humanity in it, and sort of a sense of really you coming to the art form with a humility and also with a strong point of view. And I love that. And I think that's why, for me, your music is so incredibly successful. And it's also why I programmed this piece, Earthbeat, on this particular concert. This is a concert that will feature works that have to do with nature. So we have the Lark Ascending, we have the Water Symphony, Symphony Number 2 by Robert Rival, and when you have your work, Earthbeat. Can you tell us a little bit about the genesis of this piece?
back in 2016, 17, Paul Dornian, at the time the CEO of the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra, reached out to me, and he wanted to discuss ideas of a large-scale project to present during the Canada's 150th celebration year. And so I met with him. We discussed some ideas, and I presented a number of ideas that I had written down. And we decided on one particular project, and that project was to bring together 5 composers from across Canada to write a 5-movement symphonic piece where we would be each assigned a movement to write and piece it together and present it with dance. So it would be like a symphonic ballet in some form or shape or form. Now, the narrative was written by choreographer Yukichi Hattori. I was given the last movement, and as you could probably expect, I felt an overwhelming pressure to deliver because the last movement is like in the context of a symphony is where you really have to make that final statement, where I really have to deliver the ultimate conclusion. And so as part of my process, I want to understand the history of the land I'm living on here in the prairies. And that meant reaching out to the indigenous community. Thanks to Hal Eagletail, who I was introduced to, he introduced me to his community, the Tsutina community, as well as the art of the powwow tradition. Now, Hal is a powwow expert and an MC, and engages in many powwow performances and competitions across Canada, actually all of North America. And through him, he taught me the history of the powwow traditions, the importance of the powwow tradition, and what it reflects in his culture. And I was very taken from seeing many of the powwow performances that he took me to. I mean, the primal energy, the connection to the earth, the collective synergy that you feel from the performers when they're performing together, with the drum beat hitting in the background and everybody dancing together and singing along. And there was something about it that really brought out a certain fire, a certain, energy that you can't help but be swept away from. Now, while I was talking to him, he also informed me that this constant beat is something that is universal in every culture. And he's right. I mean, if you look in many cultures, even in my Asian culture, if you look at the dragon dances, there's a constant beat. The beat is always there. And this beat is something that you can find throughout history in many civilizations. And so when I informed him that I was very inspired by this powwow tradition, I would like to write something that reflects this constant beat. But I was concerned about cultural appropriation. I was concerned about taking something that was their tradition, and to me taking it and making it my own in some way, shape, or form. But he assured me, and this is something that's very important to me. He said that this beat is not owned by any one culture. This is a universal beat, and it's up to you to find your own connection with this beat. Once you figure out that connection, the music will come. And it's a matter of making sure that it is within your own voice. And so through him, he opened my eyes to helping me find that connection, I guess the connection to the earth, with this constant beat. As I was writing the music, I had to remind myself that I had to write music that reflected my own connection with the earth through this constant beat. And so the music was built on much of my own musical language. The beat was something that that was inspired by a powwow tradition, but again, like you said, this is the beat that you can find with almost every civilization, and that was the thesis of the piece. It's a matter of undergoing the journey of discovering who I am in musical form through this constant beat, while also expressing my own connection with the earth. And so this is how I was able to write the piece. And he was at the performance. He was there with me every step of the way, whenever I had a question or as I was writing the piece, to ensure that I was making a sincere attempt to write something that was truly a reflection of me. And at the performance, he was very, very happy. He gave me his blessings, and he said, "You've done it, Vince. This is your voice. This is your beat. This is your way of expressing that beat and your connection." So.
And how does the tune Red River Jug fit into this piece? Because joining the WSO on this concert will be 30 or 40 young string players from the Sunnyside Strings, which are led by two of our musicians in the Windsor Symphony, and they will be positioned all around the hall, up in the balcony, downstairs, sort of in a surround sound surrounding the audience.
And that's a very good question. All right. So as I was writing Earthbeat, I wanted to make sure one of the criteria was to ensure that it is still about Canada. And one of the things that Hal recommended was to incorporate a folk tune, a jig, or something that was truly Canadian. And he recommended the Red River Jig because it's truly Canadian. It's music that represents both Canada and the Métis community. And also it represents the future. When you have children performing it, it represents the future of Canada as we see it, and who knows where the future is going to take us. And so the Red River Jig is my acknowledgement of Canada's history, of the history of the Westerners and an Indigenous coming together in musical form, and that's what the piece was all about. It's, I guess you could say, a snapshot of Canada's history in musical form that Hal and I felt was integral to be part of this piece to celebrate this the Canada that we are living in now.
Well, it is pretty clear to me that this piece is not only in your voice, but it is a true collaboration, and I love that about it, and I think that our audience is really going to respond to it. Vince, thank you so much for spending time with me today, and we look forward to hearing Earthbeat.
Great. Well, good luck with it.
Thank you.